Introduction. Welcome to the 10-Minute Book Club. Today, we're diving into Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Published in 1813, this beloved novel is a delightful mix of romance, sharp social commentary, and biting wit. It's one of the most famous stories about love and self-discovery, featuring unforgettable characters and a plot that keeps readers hooked to the very last page. If you've ever heard the names Mr. Darcy or Elizabeth Bennet but don't know the full story, or just want a refresher, you're in the right place. Let's uncover the magic behind Pride and Prejudice. Section 1. Setting the scene. Pride and Prejudice takes place in the English countryside during the early 19th century, a time when social class and financial security dictated much of life, especially marriage. The novel introduces us to the Bennet family, who live in a modest estate called Longbourn. The family consists of Mr. Bennet, a sarcastic but mostly hands-off father, Mrs. Bennet, a frantic and often embarrassing mother, and their 5 daughters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia. Mrs. Bennet's singular mission in life is to marry her daughters off to wealthy men, ensuring the family's financial security. Why? Because Longbourn is entailed, meaning the estate can only pass to a male heir. Since the Bennets have no sons, the property will go to Mr. Bennet's distant relative, Mr. Collins, when he dies. This creates a constant sense of urgency for Mrs. Bennet to find suitable husbands for her daughters. The drama begins with the arrival of Mr. Bingley, a wealthy and charming young bachelor, who rents the nearby estate of Netherfield Park. With him comes his aloof and immensely rich friend, Mr. Darcy. Their arrival sets the small town abuzz with gossip and anticipation. Section 2. Meet the characters. Let's talk about the characters who bring this story to life. Elizabeth Bennet, our protagonist, is the second eldest Bennet daughter. Intelligent, outspoken, and witty, Elizabeth values authenticity and mutual respect over wealth and social standing. Jane Bennet, her elder sister, is the epitome of grace and kindness. She has a budding romance with Mr. Bingley. Mr. Darcy, Mr. Bingley's friend, is proud, reserved, and intimidating at first glance. Though he seems cold, there's more to him than meets the eye. Mr. Wickham, a charming officer in the militia, initially wins Elizabeth's sympathy with his easy charm and troubling stories about Mr. Darcy. Mr. Collins, the Bennet family's ridiculous cousin, is a clergyman and heir to Longbourn. He's a sycophant obsessed with social status and Lady Catherine de Bourgh, his wealthy patroness. These characters are set against a backdrop of rigid societal rules, where personal happiness often takes a backseat to social obligations. Section 3. The spark of romance and conflict. At the Meryton ball, Mr. Bingley and Jane quickly connect. Jane's gentle demeanor and beauty captivate Bingley, and he clearly enjoys her company. In contrast, Mr. Darcy refuses to dance with anyone outside his social circle, including Elizabeth. When Elizabeth overhears Darcy saying she's tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt him, her pride is wounded, and she forms a strong dislike for him. Things heat up when Mr. Collins arrives at Longbourn, seeking a wife. Initially, he proposes to Elizabeth. His speech is a disaster, full of self-importance and flattery toward Lady Catherine. Elizabeth, true to her independent spirit, firmly rejects him, much to her mother's horror. Mr. Collins quickly shifts his attention to Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's pragmatic friend, who accepts his proposal to avoid spinsterhood. Meanwhile, Elizabeth meets Mr. Wickham, who tells her that Darcy wronged him by denying him a promised inheritance. This only strengthens Elizabeth's negative opinion of Darcy. Section 4. The first proposal. The story takes a major turn when Elizabeth visits Charlotte at Mr. Collins' home. While there, she unexpectedly encounters Mr. Darcy, who is staying at his aunt Lady Catherine's estate nearby. Despite their strained interactions, Darcy grows more enamored with Elizabeth. One day, Darcy stuns Elizabeth by proposing to her. However, his confession of love is clumsy and laced with insults. He speaks of how her family's low status and behavior have been obstacles to his feelings. Elizabeth, furious, rejects him outright, accusing him of ruining Jane's happiness by separating her from Bingley, and of mistreating Wickham. Darcy is shocked but doesn't argue. Instead, he writes Elizabeth a letter, explaining his actions. In the letter, Darcy reveals that he interfered in Jane and Bingley's relationship because he believed Jane didn't love Bingley. He also exposes Wickham's true nature, recounting how Wickham tried to elope with Darcy's teenage sister Georgiana to gain her fortune. Section 5. Elizabeth's transformation. Elizabeth is stunned by Darcy's letter. It forces her to confront her own prejudices and the flaws in her judgment. She realizes she may have been too quick to believe Wickham's lies, and too proud to see Darcy's actions in a more generous light. This self-awareness marks a turning point for Elizabeth. As she reflects on Darcy's character and his letter, her feelings toward him begin to shift. Section 6. Lydia's scandal and Darcy's redemption. The stakes are raised when Elizabeth's youngest sister, Lydia, elopes with Wickham. This reckless act threatens to destroy the Bennet family's reputation. The scandal seems beyond repair, but Darcy secretly intervenes. He tracks down Wickham and Lydia, pays off Wickham's debts, and arranges their marriage, all to protect Elizabeth's family. Elizabeth learns of Darcy's actions through her aunt and uncle, who were involved in the negotiations. She is deeply moved by his kindness and realizes the depth of his feelings for her. Section 7. A happy ending. As the dust settles, Mr. Bingley returns to Netherfield and proposes to Jane, rekindling their romance. Jane happily accepts, and the Bennet family is thrilled. Meanwhile, Darcy visits Elizabeth again. This time, he is humble and respectful, making it clear that he still loves her but will accept her decision. Elizabeth, having grown in her understanding and admiration of Darcy, accepts his proposal. The novel ends with two happy marriages, Elizabeth and Darcy, and Jane and Bingley. Through these unions, Austen celebrates love that transcends pride, prejudice, and societal expectations. Conclusion. At its core, Pride and Prejudice is a story about self-discovery and personal growth. Elizabeth and Darcy must both confront their flaws, her prejudice and his pride, to find true happiness together. Jane Austen's sharp humor and keen insight into human nature make this story as engaging today as it was in 1813. It's a celebration of love, resilience, and the courage to change. Thank you for joining the 10-Minute Book Club. If you enjoyed this summary, please like, subscribe, and share your favorite moments from Pride and Prejudice in the comments. See you next